Thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet Voice You Know with the News You Trust studio. Sponsored by Family Forest Carbon Program, where we help family forest owners get paid to improve the health of their woods. I am Allison Kinney. In agricultural news today, we look to California's Prop 12 and the effects on the pork industry. Agriculture continues to target California's Prop 12, which set hog production standards but caused industry impacts outside of the state that the Supreme Court says only Congress can fix. Prop 12 was a top concern for the House Ag Chair G.T. Thompson at a recent USDA oversight hearing.
In addition to being burdensome for producers, the final pork product is also more expensive for consumers. Pork prices in California have risen 20% on average since the implementation of Prop 12, and the cost of constructing Prop 12 compliant barns are estimated to be at least $3,400 to $4,000 per sow.
However, the Supreme Court ruled that while California could set its own production standards, it is up to Congress to fix the collateral impacts in other states, which lawmakers tried to do in last year's failed Farm Bill. USDA Secretary Brooke Rawlings echoed the High Court's ruling.
California has the right to do what California wants to do. But the minute that crosses the border and begins to, again, compromise in such a significant way, our pork producers, we need to act.
Rawlings argued the issue transcends party lines.
I believe this is a bipartisan question. We may not all agree in this room, but I think most agree, even on the Democrat side of the House, that it cannot stand. So I stand in full support of your effort. We're also looking at things we could potentially do at the department to mitigate for some of the consequences of this rule.
Separately, Rawlings announced a multi-pronged plan to combat the New World screwworms northward spread from Mexico, including an $8.5 million sterile fly dispersal plant in Texas. The pests eradicated from the U.S. for decades can harm or kill livestock, wildlife, pets, and rarely even humans. The U.S. suspended southern border imports of cattle, horses, and bison in May. Now to Brianna Smith with a look into those late-planted soybeans.
Joining me is Dr. Laura Lindsay, the state soybean and small grain specialist with OSU Extension. Dr. Lindsay, as you know, there has been a wet spring and some people are looking at late planted soybeans, whether they're double cropping, replanting, or planting for the first time. Are there any adjustments that farmers should be making as we go into the late season here?
Sure. The first adjustment to think about is seeding rate. As we plant later in the growing season, we recommend increasing seeding rates. So if you plant the first half of June, we recommend having a plant stand of 130 to 150,000 plants per acre. So of course, seeding rate should be higher than that. Once we get into the end of June and double crop soybean situations, we would like to see a plant population of at least 180,000 plants per acre. The other thing to keep in mind is row width. Narrow rows are always better, and narrow is 15 or 7.5 inches. Those are always better than 30-inch rows, and the effect of row width is greater as you plant later. So really, if you're thinking about planting in June or July, really trying to have narrow rows if at all possible.
Thank you. That was Dr. Laura Lindsay, the state soybean and small grain specialist with OSU Extension. Reporting for Ohio's Country Journal and Ohio AgNet, I'm Brianna Smith.
In other news, Brazil's corn harvest grows. However, exports are projected to decrease. Brazil's total corn production this season is still on track to reach the second highest volume in the country's history, exceeding initial expectations. An agricultural economist from the University of Illinois said this strong result is driven primarily by the second crop corn known as safrinha, which benefited from favorable rainfall over the past 2 months. Joanna Calusi also says despite the larger harvest, Brazil will expect it to export less corn this year due to rising internal demand from its livestock and corn-based ethanol sectors. She is quoted saying Brazil is expected to reduce its corn exports this year in 2025 because of higher domestic consumption. United States exports should increase according to the USDA. The projections for the 2024-25 market year exports should reach 2.6 billion bushels. This is the second best result in history, just behind 2020-2021. Remember when China was the major market buyer.
Here's the scoop. Soybeans are fueling Ohio's dairy farms, one glass of milk at a time. Nationwide, dairy farms use the equivalent of 229 million bushels of soybeans every year. Plus, high oleic soybeans boost milk fat and yield, making farms more profitable. From the fields to your fridge, soybeans power the farms that feed families. Brought to you by Ohio soybean farmers and their checkoff.
This market report is brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. July corn down 4 3/4 at $4.28 3/4. December corn down 2 3/4 at $4.41 1/4. March corn down 2 1/2 at $4.56 3/4. July soybeans down 6 3/4 at $10.68. November soybeans down 7 1/2 at $10.60 3/4. January soybeans down 6 1/2 at $10.75. July wheat down 6 1/2 at $5.67 3/4. September wheat down 7 even at $5.83 1/2. June live cattle down 127 at $223.02. August live cattle down 185 at $209.82. July lean hogs up 60 cents at $112.77, and August lean hogs up 45 cents at $112.45. This is the Ohio AgNet.